Shan. You don't need no man. You're an
Ah,
independent woman.
no, not at all.
Well, hopefully this podcast is a little bit of a calling signal for some eligible bachelors. So for anyone listening, Shannon Saldutti, she's 5'2". No, how tall are you? 5'5", 5'4"?
5'5", 5'5".
Okay, she's 5'5". She's single. She's a teacher, and she's got her own side hustle. To say that COVID-19 has impacted our lives would be an understatement. This pandemic has changed the world as we know it. And at the center of those most affected may also be the ones who might not fully understand it. While children have shown incredible resilience, the pandemic has posed unique challenges for adolescents growing up during this time, especially when it comes to their education. With widespread school closures sweeping the nation, many children have had their normal class schedules and learning environments entirely disrupted. And many educational responsibilities have been left to parents who are juggling classroom schedules with their own work schedules. With all of these disruptions to a standard education, how can we ensure children will stay on track developmentally? At the start of the pandemic, Shannon Saldutti asked herself that very question and answered with a solution. This spring, she established Foundations by Shannon, her very own tutoring and educational assistance service. When she first posted her programming on Facebook, she didn't think she'd gained much traction, but her schedule was booked overnight. Through Foundations by Shannon, students receive specialized and focused tutoring services designed to reiterate what students have learned in their virtual classrooms. In addition, Shannon develops tailored educational programming for students with special education needs. Although the pandemic has led to endless challenges for students and teachers alike, Shannon says she's continuing to learn while evolving to this new environment. She shares her story of being an educator and adapting to the COVID-19 pandemic on this week's episode of Yuptown.
You want to know my background? Is that what you said?
Yeah, maybe just give us a little bit of an introduction tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what did you study in undergrad?
Okay, so my story is actually kind of a little complicated. So like most 18-year-olds, you go into college with this idea that, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my moment. I'm gonna shine, and I know exactly what I want to do with my life. And I feel like you get a mix of those 18-year-olds who are like, I know I want to do this, and this is my path, and then you have some have no idea what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked in thinking, oh, I want to be a nurse, and this is what I'm going to do. This is my path. I'm going to get through nursing school. I'm going to work for 2 years, and I'm going to become a nurse practitioner. I had my whole life plan lined up.
Mm-hmm.
But, one thing led to another, and life got a little complicated during those 4 years. I love nurses. I have very close friends who are nurses. My cousin's a nurse practitioner, and I commend them and I applaud them for everything they do, especially during this crazy time right now. But it was just not a profession that was for me at all.
Right. Yeah.
And I've always kind of been like a motherly figure to most of my friends and family.
Yes, you have.
I'm known as Mother Hen, or Shan Mom, as some like to call me. And I I was lost for a couple years, and I really just did not know what I wanted to do. And
Right.
in the back of my head, I always thought about what my grandmother used to say to me, and she always said, "You would make a fabulous teacher. Why don't you go into education?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be a teacher. I just don't. I don't want to teach kids all day long." And kind of put it in the back of my head, and I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And I graduated with a health sciences degree. So I came out, and again, little old me, I was just really lost. And my neighbor around the corner from me actually recommended that I should apply for this this aid job at a special ed school near my house. And I did. And I fell absolutely in love with it. And my passion kind of started there for the field of special education.
So what was the class size like in your first class?
So I worked with severely disabled autistic boys. there was about 8 of them. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 6 of them. I'm sorry. 6 of them. They had really severe needs. They couldn't speak. Um, some of them required just a lot of physical assistance as well as a lot of emotional support. Their communication devices were on an iPad. That's how they communicated with you. Um,
Wow.
so that opened my eyes up to a lot. And coupled with that, I had my aunt and uncle have a son with severe needs. And he also kind of struck my passion because for about a year during that period, I went over and was helping my aunt with him a few days a week after work.
Mm-hmm.
And he, taking care of him, it taught me a lot, and it taught me, I can do something with this. I can kind of fuel a passion. That's what happened. And I went back to school. I got my master's in education.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got a teaching job. And yeah, ever since then, I've been kind of on the go as a teacher, and I love it. I love every second of it. And
That's great.
I'm still in the field of special education. So it's
So
been going great.
yeah, it's so interesting that all of these different pieces of your life and past experiences kind of come together and then it suddenly kind of makes sense. And that feeling when it sort of clicks, I feel like it must have been a really, awesome feeling to have after feeling kind of confused for so long.
Yeah, and I think I look back at that time in my life, and it's funny because everyone goes through stuff in their life that turns them into the person they are, and I feel like that really turned me into who I am. And I use this quote all the time, and it's it says, teaching is not what I do, it's who I am. And it's the truth, because it really is who I am. I said being a teacher, I have this personality where I just want to help people and assist them and be that quote unquote mother to them.
Uh-huh.
I love sitting and talking to my kids about what's going on in their life, and hearing their stories and what happens at home. And then the best is when they come and confide in you about things happening. I teach middle schoolers right now, so
Wow.
I
That's
love
an
that.
interesting life phase to be
Oh yeah,
considering.
middle school is tough. It's a tough age. It really is.
Yeah. That's incredible though. I mean, it must be, yeah, it must be really rewarding too, that you kind of get to use all these different skill sets that you didn't know that you would in a professional setting. But personally, I know nothing about career mobility within education. So what would career advancement look like for you? Like, are there different stages or ages in development of students that you'd want to work for or with?
So Victoria, for me, a lot of teachers go into to teaching, and they'll go back and get a master's degree and also use that in the classroom. And some teachers, it's amazing, they will stay at the same school for years and kind of finish out their career there. And to each his own, I say. For me, I definitely want to advance my career a little further. I do have a master's degree. I'm actually currently working on another one right now.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So what's your second master's in?
It's going to be in special education.
Wow.
So my first one's in education. My second one's going to be in special education. And a lot of teachers also go back and get a PhD and go on to teach at colleges or universities.
Okay,
And
Professor Shannon, I could see it for you.
we'll see. We'll see. Some teachers go down the road of, like doing consults for kids with special needs and making sure that they're in the proper classrooms or getting the proper support they need. And then other ones, their job is strictly just to navigate the IEP process. And for people who don't know what the IEP process is, in the field of special education, it's an individualized education plan. And it's almost like a child's book. I call it their little individualized book that caters to their needs. It points out all the needs that the child needs to succeed in their classroom.
Wow. So I'm glad you brought this up because this does lead me to my next question. Because of all of the disruptions in our education system with COVID, it disrupted your entire role as a teacher. What was that like for you and how did you kind of adapt to that new environment?
Well, let me tell you something. It has not been an easy road at all. There's been days of just complete, you're at a loss of just how to even help a child or to move forward. And COVID, COVID, the one positive thing that I think came out of COVID in the world of education is that education, you can adapt to anything that is going on in the world.
Wow.
So, we got
In what
word from
way?
well, it's, for instance, we got word from our governor probably, it was a Friday afternoon. I'll never forget. I was sitting in my classroom and we had kind of known a shutdown was going to happen.
Mhm.
We got word that schools were shutting down for 2 weeks and, we would go to remote learning.
Mm.
And we're just throwing stuff online for kids to do, sending out emails to parents, and we really scrambled. We really did, and nobody knew what to expect or even how to navigate it. And we had to readapt all over again, and it was creating your own curriculum, planning, putting it online, and
Yeah, and
figuring
it's
out.
such a two-way street too with students. Like it's not like the teachers, yes, you can put that out there, but there's like the students have to interact with that as well. So that must have been really challenging too, to try to get them to pick up what you put out.
Right, and it's very difficult because every child learns differently.
Right.
So for
And you
me,
have no control over that environment that they might be in.
right. So it was all about kind of setting up my curriculum and figuring out, okay, for instance, this isn't going to work for Bobby. This is only going to work for Joey. So I have to figure out how to adapt this curriculum to work for Joey or Bobby, whoever it was. And I'm getting my names mixed up. But it really was an eye-opening experience, and it changed so many things about the world of education that
Mhm.
now instead of just pulling up a Zoom on my computer and having 16 faces pull up, I'm pulling up my big projector and I'm having all the faces up there, and I'm scrolling on my computer and presenting the lesson to them, and it's just completely different. It's completely changed
Right.
now, and I think this is the way learning is going to start to go. I think we're going to see a mixed classroom, kids in the classroom and then kids outside of the classroom, because
Right. Yeah. And I think you've really done a great job of adapting to that. And I think because of this changing environment, students are going to require a higher level of care, I guess, or additional assistance with education. So, what exactly have you done? Can you tell me a little bit more about Foundations by Shannon?
so when the coronavirus, when everything started, I was more so upset about how these children were not getting the proper instruction that they needed.
Mhm.
And you know there's nothing like the regular, you're in the classroom and you're learning face to face. There's nothing like that old school setting. And I love, you know and I'm young, but my favorite way to learn is through a textbook and a piece of paper.
Mhm.
I think there's nothing like it. And I think technology is great, but I also think the old school method is awesome. And so the COVID started, and I found that these children were just not getting the help they needed at home.
And
And
and by these children, do you mean your special education children or
so,
any
so
student?
it was really any student. I had talked to my neighbors, and they were concerned about, oh, they're not getting the extra support they need that they would get within the classroom. And parents would say to me, oh, I have, this teacher has 30 other kids in her classroom and my son is being left behind. And I was talking to one of my best friends, and she said to me, why don't you start something where you can help these kids and you can help families that are in the middle of this crisis.
Right,
And
because it's not just the student, it comes down to the parent as well. They must need some support too. I can't even imagine.
they were dealt, I mean, a whole deal, from working parents trying to balance their child's Zoom calls and what was due and what had to be turned in, to even like stay-at-home moms balancing 5 kids at one time who all had to be online.
Mhm.
So I I took that with my friend Julianne, says I can give her a little shout out, and I launched Foundations by Shannon. And it was like, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do a little tutoring business, but it really turned into something a little bit bigger, which was awesome. And
So exciting.
yeah, and I do consults for children who have special needs. So if a parent needs help navigating the IEP process, or even just setting up a schedule at home to help their child learn.
So looking forward in 2021, we are almost to that next year. Let's keep going. Moving forward, what kind of progress do you think that we need to make in the education field? And how do you hope to keep these children who have been somewhat stunted on track developmentally?
Victoria, it's a good question, and it's almost a tough question to answer. Moving forward right now, you know, especially with all these recent spikes and, COVID becoming rampant again and schools are shutting down. My school's all virtual right now.
Mhm.
I saw something the other day. It's like, is this a lost year? Um, I don't think it is a lost year. I think
Mhm.
if the child gets the right support from his parents or, teachers, and if the right supports are put into place, I think we can move forward and try to do our best. Um, but I don't know what it looks like. It's very hard to determine.
Mhm.
So many things are changing, and I think one of the best ways that teachers and administrators can help with the situation is just to keep constantly learning. And even in that virtual hybrid model, learning how to engage the students at home and also the students in the classroom at the same time. And I think that's the best way to move forward with this, is just to constantly learn, constantly want to be a student ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that level of flexibility to a changing environment, it seems like you've done a really great job of that. So keep it up, Shannon. We appreciate you.
I will certainly do my best.